Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen. Before I start today's show, I got a couple things that I want to let you guys know about. I talked to my friends over at BMG Records. They're doing kind of an offshoot of the Everyday Rocks box set. If you just wanted to get certain copies of the albums, the picture disc, the beautiful artwork that's been restored, I can tell you, if you haven't seen my unboxing video for the Everyday Rocks box set, these picture discs are amazing. They're really thick. They're just fantastic quality. The graphic reproduction, absolutely incredible. They have released 4 of them already. Very Eavy, very humble. Salisbury, Demons and Wizards, and The Magician's Birthday are all available to purchase individually aside from the box set. If you are interested in the box set, those are still available on the same page, except for the 3XL box set with that size t-shirt. That one is sold out. Remember, guys, I've been saying they only make so many of these, so grab yours while you can. And you can also get the Choices box set through this link as well, and that will be in the show notes and updated on the website, scotthaskin.com, and then click on the Uriah Heep podcast link, and it'll be towards the top, because it's important. It's a great place to go for resources. Also, you can go to the official Uriah Heep store, where you can still get some of the other merchandise, like, guitar picks and things like that over at uriah-heep.com, and I'll have that link in there as well. Now, a couple other things that I want to mention really quick. We have had 2 additions, believe it or not, to the Deep Dive Podcast Network. I want to welcome to the network John and Corey at Backtracks Aerosmith Revisited. This is a very different kind of podcast. It belongs in the Deep Dive Network, but it's not a song by song podcast per se, like the rest of them are. This is a very interesting look at Aerosmith and kind of making an ultimate compilation based on songs from different guests and the hosts of the show. A very interesting show, just starting out. Go check that show out. The links will be in the show notes, as well as the other podcast, Clay and Rye at North by South. Now, this one is a different kind of song comparison. We have Rye in the north and Clay in the south, and they are doing a very different kind of contrast for songs. Another very unique podcast on the Deep Dive Network. Link in the show notes. And if those 2 voices sound familiar to you, it's because you've listened to other shows on the Deep Dive Network. So I'm sure you'll be able to figure out who they are. But great additions to the network. Very grateful to have them along. And now to today's show. Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week, we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. Welcome to bonus season 1, which means there may be a bonus season 2. Time will tell. But for now, we're going to finish off all of the tracks that either aren't associated with albums or were fragmented from albums and were not included at that time. So it's going to get crazy. It's going to be wild. It's going to be very inconsistent as far as the song audio goes, because they're all coming from different sources. Some are good, solid studio recordings. Some are not. They were recorded in the studio, but the production that I was able to get a hold of is not the best, but it's what I could get. Fortunately, every single bonus track that was recorded under the name of Uriah Heep that I was able to find out about, I do have an audio version of. So we're actually going to be able to touch all of them. There are going to be 14 songs in this season, unless I find out about something else along the way, in which case there may be more. It's going to be a mystery, guys. It's going to be exciting, because we're going to be revisiting some people over the course of the band's history that we haven't talked about or heard from in a while musically. So get ready, guys. Buckle up. But you know what it is. It's Monday. And Monday just means that we take some time out to thank the people and the things that help make this show what it is. First of all, Scott Lazinski, the graphic artist that did the logos for the show, fantastic guy. I've known him since high school. Was always drawing. Much like me, I was always tapping on desks and things like that. Got sent to the principal's office a few times for that, but he was always drawing and did not get sent to the principal's office for that, which was fantastic. Very talented guy. And so he did the logo, both the day and night logo for the show. Fantastic work. My friends at Audionamics, who have the most amazing product for all podcasters, dialogue artists, voiceover artists, editors, whoever, called Instant Dialogue Cleaner, or IDC. I use it on every single podcast I put out since I found out about it, which was fortunately early into my other podcast. And that made my life a lot easier, and already was in place when I started this show. And they also make a great product for audio separation called Extract Stems that you can check out at audionamics.com. And their link is in the show notes. Also, very important guy, Dave White. Dave is the social media director of Uriah Heep. He is the one who shares the podcast and all kinds of cool things on both Facebook and Twitter. And he runs the websites uriah-heep.com and mick-box.net, both official sites of the band. Very, very important sites, hundreds and hundreds of pages of great information to just, grab a beer and sit down and start going through pages, because there's a ton there. And also, Cakewalk by BandLab, which is the program I use to record and edit the podcast and export it. And also, Podbean, who is the distributor for the podcast. Thank you all very much for everything you do, whether you're listening to the show or not. Last but not least, we have some people to also acknowledge. Over at gottahearemall.com, my friend Allegra has posted histories and interesting tidbits about the live histories of both Emerson, Lake and Palmer and Deep Purple. Really cool site. Brandon, my favorite Metallica podcast, Metallica podcast at Metallicast, and he is a really cool guy. He's been on the show before. And Ace on Music, the band's manager, has his show, Ace the Music Man, on YouTube, and Ace on Music on Stitcher. Really informative stuff about the music business. You learn a little bit of insight about Uriah Heep, how things like box sets come together. Great show to check out. And of course, it goes without saying, but I'll say it because it wouldn't go if I didn't say it. My brothers at the Deep Dive Podcast Network. We have the Deep Purple Podcast, Skynyrd Reconsidered, the Lynyrd Skynyrd podcast, T-Bone's Prime Cuts on the Other Side, an interview podcast with different people in the music business. Fantastic interviews, I should say. Sabbath's Bloody Podcast, a Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne podcast. In the Lap of the Pods, a Queen podcast. Hawk Binge, a Hawk Wind podcast. Maiden A to Z pod, all about Iron Maiden. Diary of the Madmen, the ultimate Ozzy podcast, also about Ozzy Osbourne, although solely dedicated to Ozzy. Then we have Universally Speaking, the Red Hot Chili Peppers podcast, the Metal Gods podcast, which is a podcast on Judas Priest, and last but not least, our newest entry, And the Podcast Will Rock, a podcast all on the music of Van Halen. Everybody on that roster is just fantastic. Very proud to be working with them. And last but not least, I want to talk to you about our wonderful patrons at the $5 Easy Living tier, Kenny Wymore and Brad D. At the $3 The Wizard tier, Peter Voss, Goran Eriksson, Frank Thielgaard Mortensen, William Rose. Doesn't matter what order I put them in, they're all great guys. And at the $1 Traveler in Time tier, the one who is just beyond the veil of the living, Airtight Gravesite, our dear friend. Thank you guys all so much for everything that you do for the show, everything you've contributed, and just, the inspiration for me that says people care about what I'm doing here. If you haven't heard already, then you must be new to the show, because I mention it all the time. The Everyday Rocks box set from BMG and Uriah Heep, 7 picture discs, 7 t-shirts, a wall calendar, inspiring lyric cards. Fantastic package. If you haven't grabbed yours, grab it soon. It's very heavy also, because there's a lot of great stuff in there. Also, the Choices box set, which is a collection of CDs by several of the band members, past and present, talking about what their picks are. What their picks are, if you want to get an idea of what Uriah Heep is all about. Very cool stuff. There is some crossover, of course, because some people will pick the same selection, but I like that there's a lot of, album tracks on there and not necessarily just all hits like you would expect from something like this. It's very well thought out, very creative, very professionally done. It looks absolutely stunning. and will look great in your collection. So check those out. You can get those at the Uriah-Heep website and various other places. Last but not least, if it's still applicable and hasn't already ended by now, you can go to facebook.com/Heep Rock Hall and get your ass on the ballot or on the petition to have Uriah Heep inducted into the Ohio Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where they belong. Should have been done a long time ago, hasn't been. Let's make it happen if it's still possible and not too late on the calendar. If they didn't for some reason get in this year, which would be stupid, but it has happened all these other years, let's start working on next year now. It takes like 5 seconds to sign the thing. And it would really help the band, and it would really help everybody who's trying to help the band. So let's make it happen, people. So on to our song. This is a really interesting one. It's going to get, like I said, it's going to get a little crazy this season. But with this song, this is one that, from the information I was able to find, Split Image is an outtake for a video single from a film soundtrack. Now, I was not able to find out what the film was, if the film actually was released, if the video made it into the film, what the hell is going on. Very little information. What I was able to find out was that it was released in a couple of places on audio, the Time of Revelation box set, also the Still Eavy, Still Proud collection CD, and the original issue was in 1990, and an enhanced version came out in 1998, containing some additional tracks. So as weird as it all gets, so that's where we're at. Let's just get into the song, find out what it was all about. Here are our band, here are the band for the song. On lead vocals, returning to us is Peter Goalby. On guitar, of course, we have the one and only Mick Box. On bass, it's Bob Daisley. Drums, Lee Kerslake. And keys, we have John Sinclair. So I'm expecting some nice synthesizer work. I have not listened to these tracks yet, so these are first reaction for me, and I would imagine first reaction for a lot of you guys, because these are, harder to find. They aren't ones that are in the limelight. They're ones that are just, hey, they were held back from the studio sessions for whatever reasons. And finally, they weren't even on the deluxe box sets. So that's interesting. And it could have been there wasn't enough room. It could have been they hadn't recovered the tape at that time. It could be all kinds of things. Maybe it wasn't usable. I don't know. But in any case, here we are with Split Image. That is most distinctively John Sinclair on keyboards, no doubt about that whatsoever. He was very much into the synthesizers during this period, and it's a very unmistakable sound for the band. I like it though. It's got that 80s feel. I'm kind of returning to songs that we covered during the Peter Goalby era, and it just makes me smile. I like that. That synth was pretty cool there. Not too long of an intro. That wasn't too uncommon for this time for, as the band went on, they were doing shorter intros a lot of the times to be doing half of what this is. But around this time, that wasn't too uncommon. And I like it. I really like the drum sound too. Lee's drums are coming through nice and clean. Very common in the 80s that drums would sound like this. And that's sort of not quite over compressed, but right on the edge of it.
It's the same old line. People get to you if they can. They take what they find. They will change your mind. They will fit you into their plan.
It's kind of weird how the keyboard keeps returning to that one note so often, and there's it starts sounding like it's going to change, and then it just keeps going back to that. It's a really weird feel. It works, don't get me wrong, but it's just different. You don't often hear returning to that same note. Normally there would be more of a progression there, but it's unique for sure. Love the drum sound. The bass, man, Bob Daisley's tearing it up here. Lots of great playing on there. Can't really hear a lot of guitar right now. I think he's following the organ, but I'm not positive on that just yet.
And then one day you wake up somebody else. Someone they invented a split image. Don't let them burn you. Split image. Don't let them turn you. Split image. Keep coming back, coming back, coming back to who you are.
Wow, and in the chorus, Bob Daisley found a way to step it up another gear. Sounds great. I love what he's playing. It's very, very progressive and dynamic, interesting. I love the vocals. Of course, I'm a big fan of Peter Goalby's voice. Really enjoyed speaking with him. And if you guys haven't checked out the interview, go to the website. If you check out scotthaskin.com, click the Uriah Heep podcast link. There is an interview section towards the top. Click on that page and it has all the interviews I've done with band members and related past and present. And we'll just keep growing as I talk to more people. So, this is cool. It definitely carries that 80s sound very well. I do feel the playability in a film soundtrack. Whenever I think of music in an 80s film, the first thing that comes to mind is like a Rocky montage, because there were so many of them. And, the music got more, commercial as the movies went on, like when they started with Eye of the Tiger and Rocky 3. And it really got weird from there. But those are things I think of, and I definitely could feel the ability for this song to fit into a film soundtrack. I often think of driving scenes, a scene where there's like no audio whatsoever except for the music, and you're watching people like get in fights or groups kind of come in and clash with each other. There's so many possibilities for a song like this, but the fact that they were doing it as a video for the film, maybe the song was in the film and they were doing a video to promote it, or it could be that the video was playing in the film, like they're at a party and there's a big screen TV, or in the case of the 80s, like a large console TV sitting on your floor in a bookcase. And that is what was shown in the movie. So they needed a music video to make it look like there was an authentic music video they were watching. I don't know the answer because I wasn't able to find much out. But what I can say is that it's a cool song. I love the sound of it. It's really nice to revisit this era of the band, I have to say.
Coming back to who you are. And the wrong get more, and the right ones just fade away. What is living for if the wrong get more, and we don't have a word to say? And it's so hard to wake up, follow him right through, and crack in the mirror, a split.
Well, we get a little bit of a return to the pseudo theremin anyway. This one definitely a synthesizer, but it's nice to have that come back in and a little bit more in the foreground too. But yeah, this is good stuff. I really like how the vocals in this last part don't necessarily follow along with everything else. In fact, I think the keys are a little bit displaced to give that effect. It's pretty cool. It's not something that's easy to do all the time because if everything's not following you along in the song, it can get easy to get thrown off. But they've got a good recording of it here.
Image, don't let them burn you. Split image, don't let them turn you. Split image, keep coming back, coming back, coming back to who you are.
Wow, I had forgotten how they did the backing vocals back then. So unique. They have a great sound to them. And they're very bright in the mix. I like that, but they're just like, they come in weird spots, and it's really, it just adds such a different color to the song. I like it though. I like the way that they come in. I like that things in the song are not like right on the beat where you would expect. And it's really weird too, because for a song that's going to be put into a film, a lot of times, you don't do stuff that's too crazy because they'll reject it. So I don't know how it came about, or whether, like I said, whether the film was ever released even. But usually the songs are a little more straightforward. And so I think it's cool that it was even considered for a film, being that there's some things that are quite unique about it. But maybe that was what they were looking for.
He's coming back.
There's something really weird about the tambourine here. It doesn't sound quite like a tambourine. I'm not sure if it was something that was maybe programmed into the keyboard. If so, they timed it very well in the sequence, but there's something just weird about the sound, like it isn't a real tambourine, or it's a tambourine that has like a really solid gate or limiter on it. I don't know. There's just something strange about it. I remember one thing that I said about Peter's vocals when we were covering his time in the band is that no matter what the song was, he was always very consistent, very powerful. And this song is no different. I mean, it really fits in with everything that he did during that era. Voice is so strong. It's good stuff. This is just a very synthesizer-driven song. And while we did have some of that through his time, in the band, it's just so overly synthesized almost. I don't know if Mick is even on this, to be honest. I haven't really heard anything that was guitar that couldn't have maybe been keyboards. So this is a really weird song for the band. That was interesting. There's a little bit of a synthesized percussion in there. It's blended in pretty well, but you could pick out a couple of hits there in that last part. I don't know. It's weird. It's a good song. I find it has a good feel to it, but it's just, I don't know. It's weird having a Uriah Heep song with no guitar whatsoever in it. Very strange. I mean, at first I thought maybe Mick was just playing some very gentle muted notes that went along with the bass guitar, but honestly, I don't think that was the case. I think that's just Bob Daisley. So yeah, this is kind of freaking me out a little. Where's Mick? It's a nice reverb wash at the end of that, just in the right ear. Weird. But I like the level of reverb that was on it. It wasn't too overdone as far as I was concerned. The song had, it felt like it was recorded in the studio, but it did have a little bit of that live feel to it with the amount of reverb. So that was pretty nice. According to the credits I was able to find, and I only bring this up just for the point I was talking about with Mick, it does say that all 5 band members wrote this song. Now, if that is true, I can't imagine that Mick wouldn't have played something on it. That seems really weird to me. I mean, he's probably in there in the vocal mix at least, but it's very possible that his track didn't get recorded properly, or it was muted when they did the final mix. I mean, it could be a lot of things. It could be that it's there and it's just so blended in and buried that I can't hear it. I'm not really sure. It's weird too, especially to think that, oh wow, we have an opportunity to get a song into a film, and they want Uriah Heep to do a song, or they want a Uriah Heep song. Let's give them one without a guitar, which is like the signature sound of the band. I don't know. It's all very strange. But I did warn you guys that this season was going to be a little wild. So we're kicking it off in heavy fashion, I would say. But it's a cool song. It's really nice to hear Peter again. It's nice to hear some of the synthesizers that were from that era. Yeah, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Maybe one day I'll find out what happened with the film. Who knows? It's this season's going to be wild. So you guys, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the song. We'll see how the rest of the season goes. We'll be back tomorrow with another song from this bonus season. Take care, guys. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magicians Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show, and thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!